Hello, my dear students of Benguet State University. Welcome to our online class. I am your teacher, Jan Lasea. Ladies and gentlemen, a blessed day to everyone. This is my lecture demonstration in our laboratory subject, ITWM 133.1 Systems Integration in Architecture 2. In my previous lecture demonstration, you learned how to update a record and apply the techniques by solving the laboratory exercise. Today, we learn how to search a record and print profile using data tables. Let me demonstrate the operations of what we are going to learn today. I open up the Google Chrome web browser and I made a web page to show and demonstrate how to search a record and then print profile using data tables. The input that the user must enter is the birth year to search or filter. For example, if I'm going to type 2021 and then click filter or search button, it searches that birth year 2021 on the existing records. If there are none that matches, therefore it will display no data available in table. Let us try another birth year to search. Let's say 2001. And then click filter button. This time, it matches one of the record, as we can see here, that the birth date 10/14/2001. The year matches with the input birth year. Let us try another input for the birth year. Let's say 2002 and then click the filter button. This time it matches two records that has a birth year 2002. Now what we can do now with the result of the search, we can print it as a report. If we have a printer device connected in our computer, we can click this print button, and what does it will print on a document paper? It will look like this. It will display column headers like ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, address, together with the record of the two profile members. Another, we can export the information to a PDF file by clicking the export to PDF. However, there is a limitation to what I made. It cannot export the image, but the text are exported and printed in this PDF document. We can copy the text of the information by clicking the copy, and then we can paste it in any text editor, like for example Microsoft Word, and then paste Control B, and here are the copied and pasted text of the information of the two records. We can also export to comma separated value file format, and it can be read by Microsoft Excel. Again, the picture image is not included in the export, only the text information, as we can see right now. Finally, we can export to Microsoft Excel. And here it is. Another feature of this website is you can search any input for ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, and address, except picture, as long as it is a text to search. For example, I'm going to type 1, and then it will display one record that matches a name 1. For example, I'm going to type the age 18, and loop in the third is age 18. 19, how about age 100? There is none. And we can type Japan, and Benguet. So those are the features of what you will be learning and applying later for solving laboratory exercise. Most web application and desktop application require to print hard document reports. Sometimes it needs to export to some file format documents. The data tables is an open source framework free for you to use and modify that provides search and generation of reports plus exports to PDF, separated value file format, and Microsoft Excel. In the index.html file, the JavaScript function number sign btn filter report click event handler is triggered to run by the client PC whenever we click the filter button upon typing the input and then click the filter button, and then the client PC will execute the code inside this click event handler. The reference ID name number sign example is the ID name of the HTML table containing the ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, and address that is defined in the body tag. Later, we will look at the code of the HTML body tag that has a ID name, number sign example. If the data table ID name, number sign example is defined, then it clears the contents of the data table and destroys the memory footprint so that memory allocation is sufficient. Next, the CPU calls the AJAX function to send requests to the server to run the fetch.php file via POST. Also, it parses data parameters such as the birth year that contains the user inputted birth year to search or filter, and the variable MSG that contains the string value word. The parameter MSG has no use in the fetch.php processing. The parameter MSG is used to illustrate how to pass more than one parameters. If in case later, not only one that you like to pass to the server an information, but more than one, this is the format how you will add more information or parameters to pass to the server. You just put a comma and then declare or name a parameter variable, put a colon, and then put the value to that variable. The type of package format that the server will send to the client PC is extensible markup language or XML. This code is the continuation of the call for the function AJAX, since it is very lengthy. Let us assume that the server CPU ran the file fetch.php and search all records that matches the birth year input by the user. The server's PC will send an XML package containing the records that matches the birth year. the client PC will receive that XML package in the success function. The formal parameter variable XML, I name it XML so that it is easier to understand that the client PC will receive a package format, not JSON package but XML. Inside the success function, it searches and filters the data by the member tag that I define in my XML package. I place a member tag and extract the values of ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, and address. The records are gathered and stored to the JavaScript variable name row. This variable row will concatenate the records. The command $number sign rows .html and then the argument variable row will display the records in the body of the data table and calls the function generate report. So this line is the command that will place the records that matches with that query, which is the birth year in these data tables. Next, we will look at the definition and purpose of the function called generate report. This is the JavaScript code of the definition of the function generate report. The purposes of the function generate report is to set up the data tables framework. For example, it shows the filter text box when searching is true and customizes the buttons like the print report button. For the paper size is legal, orientation is portrait, header, the title of the report is list of members that you can modify, customize. The header is visible. The header is referring to this column headers, ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, and address. While the footer is hidden. There is no footer header visible. It also customizes the export to PDF button for the title of the report is list of members and the header is visible while the footer is hidden. So if you click the export to PDF, the title that we can see in that PDF document is list of members. The header, such as the ID number, picture, name, and so on, are visible, but the footer is hidden. It also customizes the button copy, which is this copy button that has a label copy, and then the title, list of members, and then header is visible while the footer is hidden. It customizes the export to the comma-separated value file format, and then the title is list of members. The header is visible while the footer is hidden. Also, it customizes the export to Excel with a title of the report, list of members, header is visible, footer is hidden. Next, you can also add a button in this code. Let's say, for example, I like to add a button that has a label back. So I type here text back, and then whenever the user click the back button, the code within this function action, which is written in JavaScript code, that will browse to the previous website or previous web page. The JavaScript command window.history.back function. Lastly, the caption for the filter or filter label is defined in this line as search colon string filter. And you can also modify if you do not want the label filter, instead you want to put a label search, you can modify in this line. This is the definition of the body of the index.html. This command displays the label. The following HTML tag commands displays the label, birth year, text box with ID, name, text, birth year with a initial value of 1900, button with ID name, BTN filter report with a label filter, another button with a ID name, BTN back with a label, caption label, which is back. This text box is the this line that the ID number is text birth year. This label is this line label tag with a label caption birth year. The command displays the header. This line header 1 will display the header list of members that you can modify. This definition of the table with ID name example referenced by the data tables framework that we encountered in the previous slide. These are the headers: ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, address that appears in the data tables. These are the footer headers: ID number, picture, name, age, gender, birth date, address that appears underneath. And that is the footer. Lastly, the table body with ID name, rows, is the area where it places the records sent by the server PC. In this middle between the header and then the footer is the area where I name this ID rows that we use this ID name to put or place the records to display. Let us proceed at the server PC represented by the fetch.php file. The PHP variable $birthyear will hold the birth year value sent by the client PC via post. The variable $records will gather the records that matches the search by birth year. The object variable $memberdb is instantiated using the class database that I define in the file database.php. The arguments passed to the class database are the server name, which is localhost, the username, which is small letter root with an empty password. This is the continuation of the code from the previous slide. If the connection of the server name localhost, username root, and empty password is success, then it selects the database name bank. To search for records that matches by the given birth year, we issue an SQL query, select asterisk from member where date format, birth date, %y is equal to $birth year. The SQL date format, date underscore format function formats the date value according to the format string. The format string that I implemented here is %y. And what does it will do? It will extract the year having a 4 digits. For example, 2002. And then it will match to that given input which was passed by the client PC. And if there is a match, you know what will happen. It will gather all those matching records. If there is at least one record that matches, then the $member query is true. This is the continuation code from the previous slide. The command $row is equal to $member query fetch array holds the record that matches the query. The variable $records, this one, gathers the record of information and it places it format it in this kind of format, less than member followed by comma, less than member followed by space, and then the ID name followed by equal, and then the record of that ID number that matches the birth year, and then followed by the picture, name, age, gender, birth date, and address. The picture down below will have an idea, visual information that this variable $records will contain a one row of records. Many rows of records. This is the continuation of the code from the previous slide. These codes will set up the XML package format to be sent to the client PC. The 4 echo commands will send the XML package to the client PC. The variable $records contains the records gathered as a result of matches of the birth year in the SQL query. This is an example contents of an XML package that is sent by the server PC to the client PC. It contains the header followed by the document tag and then followed next by the member tab. Every member is one record of information. I posted your laboratory hands-on exercise number 3 in our Google Classroom. Please answer and accomplish it. That ends our topic for today. I hope you have learned in my class. Thank you for watching. Carry on until tomorrow. God bless us.